Started in October 2009 by Beefy Masia and Jim Chuchu and myself to begin to kind of have a platform for Kenyans to discuss issues surrounding the post-election violence and what their fears were about 2012 and what their frustration was with the current situation. And it really came out of just our observation of what went on around the 2007-2008 horrible period in Kenya's history. When people were interacting over Facebook and through email and just ranting about what was going on and what they wanted to do and how they could get involved, but they didn't know how to do it. People felt powerless and people felt frustrated. So we figured, let's create this collective space where people can come and begin to discuss that. And since Beefy and Jim are creatives, it made sense to begin to use a video format. And then it just kind of grew from there into a whole, I don't know what it is now, but it just keeps growing and developing. And so KuweniSerious now is moving to not just discuss things online, but to have a practical approach to what we're doing. Cool.
So what have you done in the past? You've had events. How have you taken your message out?
We've used, if you check this out, there's a lot of video. We've used a bit of animation as well, just cartoons. When we were explaining the Constitution, we broke down little sections of the Constitution into bite-sized pieces that were animated or that were in cartoon form. And that was kind of cool. We had an interesting response to that because people then were saying, oh, I didn't know this. Why don't I go out and check and read the background to this story, find out what's going on in the Constitution. And we were also worried that people wouldn't vote in the referendum. Thankfully, we were overwhelmingly proven wrong. But after 2007, we just weren't sure that people wanted to vote again. And it seemed important for us to kind of push the message that you still need to vote regardless of how frustrated you're feeling about the political situation. It's your country. It's completely important to not leave things, to not by serikali, or to do things like it's your country. You have to get involved, you have to participate, and voting is one of those ways. And that's what we were doing in the past, and then now we're moving into the tech training program. We're working in actually we just had our first session. We're working in Kibera and Babadogo, and we're teaching them basic tech and citizen journalism on smartphones. And this is now when the KuweniSerious volunteers can come in, give us your time, 3 hours of your time.
Cool. So the website is KuweniSerious.org. So before we get into the campaign that you're running right now, you said you've done animation work and what design work. So are you guys using like a lot of social media, a lot of creative content? Is that where you're focusing?
Yes, a lot of creative content. Like I mentioned, Jim and Beefy are amazing creatives. Jim is part of just a band, and he was involved in creating Macmende, which became a huge phenomenon. And Beefy he's not technically the band, but he is, I suppose. So it just makes sense to work around that platform. People should do what they know how to do, and Jim and Beefy do it so well that it just makes sense to continue that format. And I guess if you know the back history of just a band and how they got started was, well, at least how they got marketed. They would take their music to local radio stations, and people would say, we can't play this video, it's too, Kenyan market will understand this. So they started pinging things online, and then the more they put stuff online, the more they generated this kind of cult underground following, and so that was a platform that they utilized and leveraged, and so it just made sense. We're doing KuweniSerious stuff. It's cheap to do stuff and to put videos and then to put them online. Costs barely a thing at the beginning, and then of course things become a bit hectic afterwards. But we use Facebook and Twitter to get our message out, and we use the site. We only started to get physically into spaces around last year's campaign, when we worked with Roma Media to put the videos on buses. So if people went into the Kenya buses, they'd have those videos playing as they were driving around the city, and it was good for that. We worked with Ghetto Radio to get some of the messages out through that, and Ghetto Radio has a huge reach. Interestingly, not just for the ghetto people, well, did you say ghetto people? The targets
within that community,
people are tagged. I mean, beyond their target community, they have this huge spillover, because when you buy a new car from Japan, your car only gets a radio.
Really?
Yeah. So you have these people on both sides of the divide listening to that and getting those messages. So it's really interesting to capture both markets.
Maybe you could tell us something about, you guys have had, I guess, a lot of experience with using online, the internet, using like really, you know, like you said, cost-effective means to start campaigns and run campaigns and, you know, get things going without, you know, like a huge marketing budget, doing advertisements on. Maybe we can talk a bit about that. You know, I mean, there's many companies think that, or many individuals think, oh man, if I were to do something, I would need to go to, you know, get a budget going and, you know, take a lot. But, you know, you guys have sort of perfected the art of just starting low, going high. Maybe we can talk about that, what opportunities there are for Kenyans, Africans to get stuff going without, you know, without going to the government or going to some big corporate.
Okay, let's see how I can tackle that. First of all, we're really blessed in Kenya right now to have such an amazing tech space blowing up and blossoming. I don't know if you felt it as well, but within the last 2-3 years, the energy is incredible. You feel like it's just cracking about, you don't know what to do. And with having broadband connections and to be able to be in a space like this, the iHub, which is where we are now, and have a fantastic broadband connection where you can utilize, you know, YouTube, and you can put up videos and people are actually watching it. I mean, when we first started, people were like, you know, you can't use videos, not everyone would be able to see them, but you get something like that. We have our cameras, and of course this costs to buying the cameras and doing all that, but I mean, you have your camera, you make a simple clip. I mean, you're filming this on a phone, you upload it, that costs you next to nothing.
Yeah, Nokia C7 to be precise.
Nokia C7.
Yeah.
It's a nice phone, I want that one. Okay. You take that and you put it online, and it costs you so little. Using Facebook and Twitter it's a great platform to get things out. You have your limitations in that you have to have built those networks, or you need to go around and just talk to people physically and say, hey, you know, would you mind pinging this for me? Would you mind sending this out? But I think it's a community, especially within Kenya. It's a community, and how it's just everybody's trying to be networked and to link in with each other. So marketing budget is relevant when you need to scale up, because for sure if you need to move beyond the online market, then you do need to find avenues to use, which is why we're very grateful to use things like Roma Media, so people who wouldn't be otherwise accessing it on their phones or on their computers can catch these on the buses. But for I guess for a target market that's online, you're set. You can do this for next to nothing.
So there's no excuse. You can't say like, I can't. You can.
And first of all, if you're passionate about something, why are you waiting for the money to come in?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's too many people don't get started on things because, oh, you need to do this, you need to have this amount of funding. No. If you are passionate about something, start it, and then from there the money will begin to come when you're producing a quality, solid product. I
mean, I guess what you're saying is there's always something you can do. It may not be the big thing, but there's always something you can do where you are.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely. And I keep saying this because I heard it in a talk a couple of years ago, that everybody has the ability to make a difference, and because you can, you must. And I feel like that informs what we do. I mean, whether it's Jim and Beef, who have a creative background, or me, who's kind of more development focused, quote unquote, whatever development means, you have something, like you have the ability to make a difference, and because you can, you must. And that's what we do with KuweniSerious. We've been encouraging our community to say, all right, you guys are sitting there online, you're watching these videos, you're saying, oh, I feel so bad about the situation in Kenya. No, do something.
Yeah. So I guess we're doing a flip on Obama's Yes We Can. Yes, we must.
Yes, we must. When we first started the site, our focus was primarily advocacy and dialogue. It was just a space, and we had no idea what it could be, or we weren't even thinking long term about it, but a space to dialogue, and to begin to see the issues as they were, and to just create community around that. But then we began to feel a few months ago that it was critical to move people from the point where they were always talking about things, because I mean, we do this all the time. Kenyans are always talking about what's wrong and what we should fix, and it's unknown. Very few people either see a place for them to go for and actually do it, or think that they can, or whatever. And I think this KuweniSerious's target audience is somebody who is young, educated, exposed, knows what good governance should look like, knows what the political situation should look like, but they don't get involved either because they don't know how or because they don't care. And what we're trying to do is get people to care, which is why our tagline is fighting the evil powers of apathy, and to get them to care practically. So there's a great term, slacktivists, so people who just sit there and let's take to the streets, watching an Egypt story, and people are like, yes, Egypt, go Egypt, please, they're never gonna leave their houses. So we thought, how can we begin to get people to get practically involved? A lot of people in Nairobi, and this is funny in the sense that you have one of the organizations that we're volunteering with possibly has more volunteers coming in from, say, North Carolina or from other parts of Europe than they do from Lavington and from Hurlingham. And I think that's a travesty that a lot of people, you can live in Kenya, in Nairobi, and never go to Kibera, never go to Mathare, never go to Babadogo. And so we're working with these girls to teach them basic tech, basic electronic skills in conjunction with the University of Nairobi. And we're going to be teaching them citizen journalism on their smartphones. She's being led by the amazing Daudi Were, mental acrobatic. And the idea is, how can you come in and volunteer with us? How can you give us 3 hours of your time minimum and have it's practical. When you come, give us 3 hours of your time, sit there, help a girl who's learning how to use her phone. Which we've got a bunch of phones for them. How do you, like this, how do you record an image? How do you disseminate it? How do you network? How do you do that? It's skills that all of us have. If you know how to use a computer and you know how to use a phone, you're ideal for this volunteering opportunity. So we're going to be running this between February and April 2011, and we'd like as many people as possible to come and help us. We do have skilled trainers who are going to be leading the program just to make sure things don't go a bit haywire. But we'd love people to come and commit their time. We do it on Saturdays, and then in April we'll be having it 2 days a week, on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Where will this be happening?
In Kibera at Carolina for Kibera Center. We're working with the Binti Pamoja girls, and then in Babadogo at a place called Akref, which is smaller but is doing really amazing work. Akref Babadogo. But just send us an email, the team at KuweniSerious.org, and we will get back to you about the details. We'll have more information on the site as opposed to, because we do want to have specific tasks. So for example, we'll say this week we want people who have focus on mapping, this week people who have focus on social networking, and like that, and people can sort of create their skill areas. But in general, the call for volunteers is up, it's open. We're creating that community of people who are doing something.
Way cool. So KuweniSerious.org, that's the site. If you want to get in touch with the team, that's the team at KuweniSerious.org. Cool. So I guess we'll post your video. I think you have a video up about the campaign with this interview, and we wish you all the best. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you finally.